Hello and welcome to the Perpetual Traffic Podcast. This is your host, Ralph Burns, and the founder and CEO of Tier 11. And today's show is all about Meta Andromeda. If you don't know what that is, well, you're not alone, because Meta surreptitiously rolled out an update to their AI algorithm, which is one of the most massive changes. I'm not being hyperbolic here or just trying to use 25-cent words for no apparent reason, but this is the biggest change I've seen in Meta since I've been doing Meta ads. And we were the first Facebook ads agency back when Meta was Facebook, way back when, in 2012, 2013. And I've never seen anything like this. And this is the reason why we're doing a whole series of shows on this, because you as an advertiser, you as a director of marketing need to understand that the way that you were doing things prior on Meta no longer works today. And today's show is all about that. And fortunately, we have one of the most innovative, I think the most innovative media buyers, digital marketing strategists on the planet, John Moran, on staff here at Tier 11. And he goes through this stuff that his job is basically to innovate. His job at Tier 11 is to innovate and find new ways of getting results for our clients and ultimately helping them achieve their vision, but doing it through new innovative strategies. And AI is evolving so much. In fact, we do an AI discoveries call every 2 weeks at Tier 11, just so people within the organization can show what they've been doing, because this stuff is changing so fast, which is frightening for some people. But if you're a marketer, this is one of the most exciting times I think we've ever had, because these algorithms, these platforms are becoming so much smarter, and they will allow you as an advertiser or as a marketer to be able to get results with less work. Yes, we have been promising that for years and years, but now is the time where that is actually happening. And I'm going to share my screen here on an article that came out. Well, it was March of this year. It's called AI Innovations in Meta's Ad Ranking Driving Advertiser Platform. Or advertiser performance, rather. And we actually had a call with our new Meta agency representative this past week. We talked about the Andromeda update and this big change in the algorithm. And quite honestly, it was sort of news to him, which I was surprised by. And I think there's a reason for that, is because when these platforms, I remember back when I was an SEO, Google would announce changes sort of after the fact, algorithm changes. So they didn't want people to hack the algorithm. And I used to use link wheels and all this sort of black hat stuff to get rankings in SEO when I was an affiliate. And then obviously doing it for some of our agency, some small budding agency customers way back when. It's almost like Meta released this without telling anybody on purpose, because they are leveraging the power of AI. They are leveraging the power of GPUs, which, or if you don't know what those are, the things that are transforming everything in computing. It's all about compute. And this article here, which I encourage you to read, what I usually do is I usually take the URL and throw it into this app called Instapaper, and it reads it to me, because this is the reason why we're doing so many of these shows here, is because of the ad ranking platform and all the performance that we're driving right now is allowing the algorithm to do its job. So there's 4 AI innovations in ads ranking I just want to get through here very quickly. This Meta Gem, which is this superbrain. It's generated ads recommendations model, or GEM. They're putting acronyms on everything because they're innovating so fast. They have to spit out all these new names. Basically, it's like having a superbrain that can read an entire library of books in seconds, or can read the entire internet in seconds, understanding the relationships between all the characters, remember every detail, and connect that into an understanding of sequence of events. The point is, what they're doing is they're reading their entire algorithm in split seconds, and then using that learning in order to place your ads in the right way. And then in this article, which I'm showing here, if you don't subscribe to our channel, you definitely should. over at perpetualtraffic.com/YouTube. During this initial launch, they did a test where Meta Reels actually increased conversions by up to 5%. And there's a very cool sort of algorithmic image here, which sort of shows how this works. You're basically throwing all of your creative into an ad set and allowing Meta to take your product and the content that you give it and show it to a user at whatever stage of the journey in which they're in. And John and I are going to be talking about that in today's show. This is purely an introduction to wrap your head around it, because I think a lot of people really have not been able to wrap their heads around this as of yet, because it's super complex. I'm explaining sort of more of the why behind it. The point is this giant library, which they also call the Meta Lattice, is a way of being able to sort all of the data that they have on all of us that use this platform every single day, and then show the right ad format, the right type of product, the right type of ad, the right type of, you name it, content in front of the right person at the right time in order to move them along your sort of virtual sales funnel. So what Meta has created is sort of this virtual funnel inside Ads Manager. And John will explain this a bit further. Finally, in this article, they mentioned Meta Andromeda. And this is the thing that we mentioned when we talked to our Meta rep this week. They didn't know what Meta Andromeda was. It is literally the way in which they deliver this into the algorithm so that it's almost like you have a personal concierge who knows your tastes and knows your customers' taste so well that they just don't understand, like they like your shoes, but they know exactly which types of shoes and which colors of shoes to show them at just the right time. And we're seeing this in today's show. So there's those three parts. Definitely go over, and you can actually see this and see sort of how these Grace GPUs are being used within the context of this system. I'm getting probably, a little bit too scientific for some of the people that are listening to the show here today, myself included. But in essence, it just continuously learns from itself. And all of this is super deep AI compute stuff. But at the end of the day, and if we look over on our content diversification chart here, which John's going to talk about here today, these are the types of ads that these 8 ads right here are the ones that you need to now push into an ad set, create ads around your service, your digital product, especially in e-commerce. In the content diversification strategy, which is what we're going to be talking about here on today's show, is all about John just using 2 or 3 of these, not even using the full panoply, so to speak, I guess another 25% word, of all of this content diversification. And so he got this chart here from an internal conference that has not been released, and that's what we're talking about here today on today's show. I'll actually show you one of our TikTok videos that we did a couple of weeks ago, that this is probably our most viewed content piece because it reveals this content diversification strategy. So John will talk today about the us versus them content diversification ad, which is getting great results, in addition to UGC, which is primarily the type of ad that he's been using in this one particular case study, as well as 6 or 7 others, which we run here at Tier 11, and we're getting tremendous results for it. So definitely check that out. Check out our YouTube channel, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to use this as a lead magnet, so you download it and give your email and your name and your email address. Point is, like, this is a new way of doing things here inside Meta, and we're really excited to be talking about it here today with John, with yet another case study in which we're now diversifying using this content diversification strategy, which allows you to take your user and find the best piece of content to show you the content diversification strategy, which allows you to show your product or take your product and find a user at the exact stage in which they are most likely to buy. And that's why you're probably listening to this show, is to get people the right type of customer to buy your products and services and ultimately scale and grow your business. So without further ado, yes, that was a longer introduction, but I feel it's really necessary for you to all to understand this because this has been done surreptitiously by Meta, but we're super excited about it here. And that's the reason for today's show. So take it away, boys. Let's talk Meta Andromeda.
Now, a lot of people don't know what the Andromeda update is, by the way. I'm finding this I'm getting confused looks when I talk about it on discovery calls because I'm basically doing all the sales right now with Amy. She's starting to take over. But the point is, before we get into the stuff today, just like from your perception, what has happened? How has this changed? What has been the big change? All of that. And we call it Andromeda, but it's hard to find. Like if you Google it, it's kind of secretive, it seems like.
You know what's funny is it's weird. Meta did this extremely quietly. And there's a VC firm I'm attached to it's outside of the VC firm that I'm with now. It was actually from an old client / partner that has joined a new VC firm. And long story short, we were talking to some of their teams because I'm brought in as a consultant. And when I enter into a situation, I try not to be threatening. I do have a good name in the industry and I'm like, hey, I'm just here to help. Right. And so a lot of times I'll hear from teams that are like an ivory tower agency when I'm like, hey, do you guys know if the account switched over to Andromeda? And they're like, hey, what's Andromeda? So I explain what Andromeda is. I'm like, well, John, they're like, right? They're like, John, is this even mentioned anywhere in Meta? I think Meta should have done an announcement on it. And funny enough, back in December 2nd, 2024, and I'm sharing screen. Is it live? I'm on my laptop, sorry. So this is, I'm like, yeah, it's engineering at Meta, supercharging advanced post automation with next level personalized ads retrieval engine. I'm like, there's a lot of information about it out there. It is hard to find, but it is real. So a lot of people will look at me like, oh, here's John trying to trick everybody and act all smart and everything. I'm like, it's live. It's just, it wasn't public. And I understand why, because what they're trying to do is force advertisers to be good educators and engagers again, rather than just running sale ads. So what Andromeda is essentially creative targeting. And that is extremely hard to grasp because for the last decade at least, we dictated targeting. No one else did. The media buyer, the strategist, the person pressing the buttons inside of Google and Meta and etc. So Andromeda essentially takes AI and interprets what you're trying to portray in your ad as a value proposition or whatever it may be. And it says, thank you for this ad. I believe this person should see it. Now we get to give suggestions. We get to say, hey, we believe this ad should go there. And Meta's like, that's a good idea. Thank you. I'll take that into consideration. And they will go and do whatever they believe is best. Yep. So the Andromeda update of the ad retrieval engine using AI to find its audiences, long story short, just means it's up to us to produce the best diversified content in order to achieve the most perfect sales pitch and place that in front of Meta's AI so that it can go find the user for us. They have not published how, they have not published why, they have not published the best standard operating procedures. They do not publish the details because they do not want us reverse engineering. I have a direct line to the Meta engineers that are working with Andromeda through a client of mine. And so I've been able to pick the brain of the people that are developing this at a very high degree. And I do that once a week. So what's funny is we can believe this or not, but I am trying to lead by example. And that's what we're doing today is we're talking about the creative category test that I'm running and what this is and how this is helping us achieve our target, both in platform, top line, new subscribers, etc. Because there are a lot of deniers, naysayers. I've always been the tinfoil hat guy, and I will forever be the tinfoil hat guy because most of the time I'm first. I am first to find, first to test, first to market, first to share. But it is more like but that seems hard new, and my meta rep didn't tell me that, and that's okay. If we sort of have a choose your own path model as us advertisers. There's no college for this. So I think what we're trying to educate the industry for free, you're welcome, is how we do this to the best of our ability and what models you can follow so that you can level up your game. And the people who choose to deny and kind of ignore this will be left behind, period. And that started last month. So I think that's the biggest thing that we have to look at is creative is doing the targeting, and it's up to you to produce the creative. And technical media buying didn't get harder or easier. It is just drastically changed. And it has gotten easier in terms of structure, way harder in terms of optimization. And that's what we're trying to clarify for everyone now.
Well, there's an interesting article in The Verge that came out a few weeks ago. Well, actually, it was back in late May, I believe. And they did mention in not so many words, the Andromeda update, but Zuckerberg's intent for this. And it's not just necessarily to make the job of the media buyer better. It's to get rid of the media buyer. So that was their interpretation of this. Now, we've been hearing this for years and years now. Finally, we're at a point where, they're getting closer to a certain degree. However, there is a human element in all of this that still is going to require us. But it's going to allow us, a lot of these changes are just going to allow the singular media buyer to be that much more effective. And from a time perspective, as an agency owner, I'm pretty excited about that. I told our director of ops, or our VP of ops, I ain't hiring any more media buyers.
Right.
We aren't really. Maybe in some specialties we will, but we can double our size and not add any headcount, literally, at this point in time. Maybe another growth strategist, maybe another CSO, that kind of thing. So the point is this is coming. And yes, we are giving away all this information here for free, but it's still foreign to everyone. I was in a huge PI law practice yesterday. They're like, Ralph, what's the biggest thing right now in digital marketing? I was like, Andromeda. They're like, what? They didn't even know. And they spend $50 million a year on digital. And this is their head of digital didn't even know. So it's coming, it's here, but it's working, which is great. And that's why we're doing the show here today.
Yeah. And as funny as there really isn't a lot that you will, I guess I would say is a lot of people that I know learn through feeds. And if no one is talking about this, people don't learn. I find that very odd, but it is the way that we just are training, even how we're running ads. But even in here, this is even AI's innovation and Meta's ad ranking driving advertiser platform performance. They even show how you give bulk. It sorts the giant library of your ads, how it actually is doing ad creative, personalized ad retrieval, locking users into ad set and showing them repetitive ads for ad candidates. They explain how all this works. It's out there, it's public, and it's been there since March. Yeah. This is not something that is John made up a new word just to confuse people. No, it's in a bad sense. It's not my fault you didn't know.
We told you.
I know. On Friday, we're here's what to do. And they're no. It's
no,
really?
I want to do it the old way. I want to separate out my levels of traffic like the old e-com ad amplifier, level 1 through 5. No, it doesn't work that way anymore.
Right. And so I'm just going to kind of dive right in. If you're
I'm good.
Yeah, and I hope that, and I'm gonna stop sharing because I'm in an Airbnb Wi-Fi. So my apologies, everyone. But this is the data that you're coming to see is not my face; it's the screen.
Yeah, I might have shut off too. For some reason, everything's very janky today on my side. Yeah. But anyway, we'll keep going. The show must go on.
Exactly, and I hope everyone really just wants to see the data. If that's all they want, then the good advertisers will be interested in this, and the bad advertisers will not see my face to hate. So I'm happy here. Right. So here's a test that we ran the last 7 days. And the top line results are the same ad spend. Went 70 grand week 1 and 70 grand week 2. It was 1.21% difference. There is no difference in ad spend. Now we dropped our NCAC by 25%. So our cost per purchase went from 282 down to 213.
Oh boy.
And and this right now is done purely with creative. And what we did, and this will be very simple for most users to understand, is obviously we're using the Andromeda model of one ad set, one campaign for our objective that we're trying to achieve in this target. And we typically, and this is for since December, we have typically only ran UGC ads. That worked very well up to a point where we're kind of stuck at $250,000 a month spend. And we want to level up to at least $500,000 spend. So we have UGCs. These are people's dogs. Obviously, we're talking about pet health and wellness and immunity and digestive and everything. So we basically tell the story of all of our dogs. And you can see there's just UGC.
Yeah.
I mean, there are just UGC everywhere.
Shot with an iPhone.
What's that?
Shot with an iPhone. Like, this is not high-end creative, but like, it's working, obviously.
Right.
So, go ahead.
And again, it's like, I don't really care that I'm using an iPhone rather than a DSLR for the picture of Warrior here. So that's what's nice is exactly Warrior is a cool dog. But we're running UGC. And what we notice is something like this. Spend down 74%, spend up 777, then down 56%, then spend 38 up, then up 291. I mean, you're seeing bouncing around of UGC, and this makes sense with Andromeda. Why? Because this is all of the same ad type. The same ad type is simply going to cycle through variations of the creative, because if UGC can do the targeting, not all UGC will be able to all do the targeting for all users. That is not possible. It is trying to
Say that again.
Yes. All ads being only UGC will not use all UGC ads to put in ad spend to do all of the targeting for all of the users. And what
UGC ain't going to work on everybody is what you're saying.
Yeah, and it cannot be the only thing that expands. So it will get you to a point. You can take a founder story and build a healthy $2,000 a day in good sales. Can you make it to 3,000? Maybe. Can you make it to 4,000? Maybe. It's your glass ceiling is set by you, the advertiser, based on how much creative diversification you're willing to place into the engine to find the users who are not resonating with UGC. Yep. And that is the ceiling that we have placed upon ourselves with content diversification. And that is right even in Meta's literature. So that
sending the link to that article, because I think it's a great one. I haven't even actually seen that yet. Hopefully it'll send.
Oh, yep. I'll be able to send it over to you. I have a few ones.
I got it.
Yep. Cool.
Yep.
And so what this tells us to do is we look at the 9, and I'm so sorry, I was trying to get it on my phone, but it just did not work as on my stupid Wi-Fi. But I tried to get it as soon as I hopped on. But there are 9 different types of content diversifications. We've shared it a few times before. It's us versus them, founder story, face to camera, UGC. Then there's 9 different categories. We've been using UGC for a year, and it's actually been working really well until we found out, hey, that's a great content type. But what about everything else? We're like, well, that's a really good point. So I'm working on a model that we will be sharing in the next coming weeks, which is what I believe to be the best model to move into. But I won't share it yet because it's not done. And I like to lead by example. Theories are a dime a dozen. Anybody can come up with an idea. But to prove it with scale and ad spend to $100,000 is where the people that walk the walk or talk the talk can also walk the walk. So I will share that once that's done and scaled. But we are doing it in this account. And you're starting to see the initial results of that. And what I'll share with you is the beginning of the model. Now, here's what I'm talking about. This is something called Sid Delivers More. This is actually a us versus them. This is one of those content diversifications that Meta is asking us secretly to produce because it's only in like closed circles. We exposed what those 10 categories were, remove the AI ad, because that's just an optimization. Mm-hmm. There's 9 main ones, and this is one of those.
Yeah.
This is our us versus them. Our one bottle will give you more active mushrooms, more white turmeric, more vitamin C, more milk thistle at a cost of $65, where our competitors are going to have, you're going to have to buy a turmeric bottle, a milk thistle, a vitamin C, an active mushroom, and individually it will cost you $195. So what this is trying to show is the us versus them. I wish I can get this bigger. I'm on my little laptop. Anyway, let's see if I can. Well, hopefully that gives you a good understanding of what that is.
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
That'll be good enough. There we are. That looks a little better. So now you're looking at and say, okay, us versus them. And them is the industry. don't buy from anybody else in the industry. We've already made it easy for you to understand why you should buy from us rather than anyone else in the industry. This is us versus everyone else. Yeah. We place that in the ad, and our normal cost per result in this campaign is $213. This is getting a $148. And we can even see as soon as we add it in, it's starting to scale 163% in its ad spend in the last 7 days. We added about 10 days ago. So this is going from $395 to $1,000 a week. The cost obviously was $79 because it was really good. But as you double and triple things, they start to go up. But it's leveling off at a level that is still like $65 cheaper than everything else in here. And it is increasing my cost required first time or it's increasing our new customers by 40% this week. So we see that the us versus them immediately doesn't bounce around spend. It scales. Meta is giving the ad spend to this ad on its own. Why? Because it is a different piece of content in our diversification. We went from UGC, now we have UGC us versus them. We're like, okay, so now we have us versus them. Now let's say, what if we did a product feature?
Which is fascinating, by the way. Just pausing right there just to see the fact that, I mean, we were all talking about how Meta has invested so heavily into AI, and obviously AI is the algorithm. It's the same thing. It's machine learning, or however you want to do it. The point is, like, they recognize that this is a different piece of creative that can be additive to other individuals who may have already interacted with one of your other UGC ads, and so it's allocating more spend towards it. And obviously, the results are what the results are here, which are pretty astounding. So.
Exactly. Now, 2 weeks before that, we added a different piece of content. It was a product feature ad. Yep. So now in our repertoire, we have UGC, we have us versus them, we have product feature. And I wanted to wait 2 weeks to share this because we've already established that UGC ads will bounce around and spend, which is a media buyer's nightmare when things are going up and down 50 and 100%.
You're playing whack-a-mole in the old model.
You're playing, yeah. And I hope it did well this week, everyone, is your optimization. Let's cross our fingers. That's what we're hoping for. And that is a bad way to scale.
Right.
So 2 weeks ago on July 4th, we added this ad that was a product feature ad. It is our immune defense that works vet strength formula. And we basically didn't take it us versus them. We just said us. So this is us and this is our product. And we have a slideshow of the active ingredients. We have all of the information about this product. This is our first test. What if we just feature one of our products? We added that 2 weeks ago, and look at the bouncing of ad spend. It has changed $18, $36.02 to $35.83. Now, this is not bouncing around between different us versus them. Why? Between different product highlights. Why? Because it's the only one that's there. So it has stable spend. Now, what's the result of this? Well, we went from 133 compared to 282. Now it's down to $100, and it is about a little bit less than half the cost to acquired first-time customer with stable spends and optimizing the CPA, actually optimizing the NCAC, because this is first-click CAPI imports on NC, which is new customers.
Exactly.
And this ad here is now delivering us a fantastic result where we'll
look at the 100,000 impressions versus some of the other ones. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, and that's good. And so we say, okay, excellent. I want immune new customers. So it says we have 45 sales and 35 of them are new customers. And those 35 are immune new customers. Fantastic. It's exactly what I want you to do. I can still get the 11 returning customers. That will never stop. Meta will always attempt, try, push, and figure out how to go warm. First click CAPI imports will shift it back into the right direction, even against its will. We have bonked the AI over the head with a club, and we're dragging it to the area we want it to go. Mm-hmm. And what that is doing is providing us with a reduction of 30% in new customer cost per acquisition for the same exact cost that we have been spending the week before. And we are optimizing this for even a reduction of 23% week over week. So this is how introducing a high quality content diversification strategy into the Andromeda is allowing us to reach more users at a better cost per acquisition, because we've given it more ammunition in its repertoire to go find the users we want that we're not resonating with just a picture of a dog.
Right. Brilliant.
And so it's
and you've really only content diversified into like now you're in 3 total out of the 10 that we know that you intercepted in, that we have shared here a few times, but we know this and you don't out there. But anyway, we'll be talking about this a little bit more. The point is like the algorithm it shows it's just so smart. It literally knows more about you than the NSA knows about you. If you are in this particular niche, if you are, am I actively looking? Do I have a dog? Do I where in the middle? Like it knows like how deep you are in the funnel by sort of creating that for you, and by diversifying creative, say, oh well, maybe they'll actually do this person, John, who is thinking about it and has seen one of my other UGC ads. Maybe what I can get them to convert is this new ad that's clearly different. It's an us versus them, or maybe it's just a feature benefit one. So the algorithm just knows, and this is the difference between how we used to do things in the past. We would shut off all the crappy ads. Now, I did notice that you had a few of the ads that had the higher CPA, the higher NCAC. Some of them were turned off. Okay. But the point is, like, this is a new way of media buying.
Oh, it's a whole new way. Absolutely.
It's a whole new thing. And we've seen it all the way through. I remember, like, the only thing that you would do is you would create 30 ad sets under 3 campaigns, all kinds of different targeting. And then you would only put in, like, a max maybe 4 or 5 ads in each ad set. That's all out the window. Completely out the window at this point.
It is. And what's interesting about this too is when we're looking at what to do, when, where, and how, and why, we're now in an area where it's like, okay, I understand the content diversification. I understand that I need to have some different variations of each category running at the same time. So we're testing and iterating. But the next thing I was asked typically is, well, how do I know when to shut things off?
Yeah.
And how do I know what's working and what's not? And how do I trust the attribution? Or just what's the next step now? You're adding in, and I understand, but now how do I optimize and how do I shut off? Right. We are seeing that because Meta is using a piece of creative for the targeting, if you have 2, 10, if you have too many of them, it will actually test and simply start doing that for you. So what we're seeing is that we have 2 kind of golden rules in now our removal of creative that we have actually been able to pre-plan and prepare for us to not be found in this whoopsie daisy type of scenario over here, which is inefficiencies. And I'll explain what I mean. Yep. If I give 10 pieces of UGC to a ad set, I have failed as soon as I start. Because
well, hey, wait a second. You put in like 30 in here and scaled up to 250K per month, and that's been so you were doing something right.
Yes, until the plateaus started to actually work down.
Okay.
So we hit a ceiling, and then we started to see this, and things started to fall apart. Like we built the plane, and it was flying in midair, and then all of a sudden, like the wing cracked, and the windshield flew off, and the tail flew off. Yeah. So we couldn't live up there for a second.
Yeah, exactly. Drunk, everybody. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Like, what's that rattling noise? Like, that's exactly what starts going on. So what we've figured out is that if we add 10, yes, things will work inefficiently if I just give it enough money. But if we would have known what we knew before, hindsight's obviously 2020. If we were to start off on a different foot where we wouldn't have to put 10 pieces in there where things are just doing this, like, okay, those are working, these are working, now those are working, now these aren't working, and these are working, but why isn't that working? We were chasing our tail, not understanding why. Right. Now, there's 2 golden rules that we have now that are following is if the CPA is too high above where we want it to be, and this is very important, and Meta is starting to ignore / reduce spend on that ad, we should shut it off. And it is becoming clear as day.
Yeah.
The reason why you don't want to do one or the other is because if you have an ad with high ad spend and high CPA, that's okay. That could be your founder story. Not a lot of people are going to be converting on the founder story. But if you have multiple founder stories or multiple UGCs, or you pushed into too hard into one category, you start to see something that looks like this. And I'll share screen. Let me know when you see
the lawn guy just showed up, so hopefully the audio isn't too horrible.
Right.
Showing your screen.
Perfect. This, you can see that the amount spent on this one ad called Donna started off with $5,000 per day, and then very rapidly went from $5,000 to $2,500 to $1,500 to $824, and then down to $73. Why? Well, the average CPA was $510. The best we got a conversion at was $250. The worst we got conversion at was $1,266 from new customer. So it pushed in ad spend very hard.
Yep.
It found out that they are not converting and are way more expensive than the other UGCs in this campaign, and decided to ignore it for other ads. Right. So what is interesting is now we give 2-3 UGCs to Meta. Meta says, thank you very much. I will try to see what I can do with this compared to everything else. It is not working very well. I'm going to go ahead and shut that off for you. I'm going to start to ignore it for you.
So what it used to do is just spend continuously.
Exactly. But now with the creative doing the targeting, it would spend continuously sometimes because we're in an ABO environment.
Right.
And I still see a lot of people in the ABO environment saying, well, I'm going to force spend on it. And you absolutely can. But if Meta doesn't want you to, you're going to have bad performance, but they will take your money.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between letting AI optimize for who it needs to versus us ignoring it. And your mileage may vary. You may have to start off in an ABO environment just to at least get some data, whatever it may be. This isn't a golden rule to say never. The guidelines are you shouldn't. So the guidelines are, if we are working in an environment where AI can leverage the content diversification for the individual funnels that each one of those pieces of categories it needs to go into, it will optimize much better. And this is something that I have floating in my brain that I have a very tough time explaining, but it does make sense when I start to kind of share this more in a situation like this. So for example, let's say we have an us versus them ad. That us versus them is middle funnel, right? That is like a middle funnel because it's like you already know about
the I'm aware of it. I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
I'll check out the competition maybe. Like it depends on how big my pain is or my dog's pain in that particular example.
Yeah.
So,
and it's like, hey, my dog is getting sick and has valley fever and is susceptible to a lot of issues and has some issues with allergies. I really want to support their immune. Okay. So are you instantly going to go buy a Pet Wellness Direct product? No. You know that you want an immune product, but you're still trying to figure out which one is the best. Now, if you have never heard of Pet Wellness Direct and you are looking to find out why you want to choose a certain brand or product versus another brand, you could have gotten there without ever hearing about us. So you could be looking at pet immune products on Google. You could be posting in Reddit. You could be asking a Facebook community, whatever it may be. If Meta can identify that your online activity is involved in an immune product for dogs, they may not show you the founder story. They may show you the us versus them first. That's what's important, is there are people who are ready to buy an umbrella today. Absolutely. So your shopping ad will convert a person wanting an umbrella. There also is a person standing out the rain saying, man, I really wish I wasn't wet today.
There's this thing.
Those two people exist, right?
It's like raincoat or umbrella. I'm not really sure. Maybe they don't know the umbrella exists. So
exactly, right. And so I'm using funny examples to prove a point. But there are people at the top of the funnel that you can market today that have never heard about you. There are people in the middle of the funnel that would buy from you that have never heard from you. There are people at the bottom of the funnel that need a product like yours immediately that have also never heard of you. So each ad that you add as your content diversification opens up an audience that you can target immediately without having to push through the entirety of the funnel.
Yeah.
We found our glass ceiling on UGC. What is UGC? Middle and bottom of the funnel. Choose our product because what we can do. And now a person's like, well, what the hell? Who are you? I don't even know what the product is. I see that you have a happy puppy, but I don't understand why. So that's where things like our full content diversification will educate that user. But if we can only grow so much by telling everybody, as soon as you're at this stage of your buyer's journey, we're the best. We just missed everyone before that buyer's journey stage.
Right. And what was always interesting, whenever you use website conversions as your objective in meta ads, and this is going back to the Facebook days, is like, we would always say, all right, your lookalike audience is maybe 2 million people in the US. But there's a certain subset of buyers that are converters, that are ready to buy, like they're in market. And so what would happen is this would be so common, and this does not happen now, is that you would put your ads together like old school, the old way, but then you would get this super high frequency. And you're like, oh, wait a second. There's 2 million people in this. Why is it like I'm being shown to like the same 100,000 people? Because those are the people that are only the people that are in market or ready to buy right now.
Yeah.
So our answer to that was, well, we need more top of funnel creative, and then try to force the algorithm. And then Facebook would still show those ads to those same 100,000 people.
Targeting
you let me do my exclusions. And then you're like, you shut off the campaign and you start again. And then the same thing happens and you're constantly chasing your tail.
Yeah.
But this is a whole new world.
Absolutely. And what Meta basically said is when you say like, man, I really wish I had an umbrella. And then Meta's like, hey, have you ever seen our umbrella that we have for sale? And you're like, like
was listening to my phone. Everybody always tells me that now. They're listening. I'm like, yeah, it's great. I'm a marketer. It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's what's funny is it's like, that's a tinfoil hat thing, but I call it conspiracy theory spoiler alerts.
Exactly.
Like we know that they know more.
What I always say is well, Meta's not listening. They're just buying the data from the company that has the speaker on your iPhone, and or they're buying it from Apple and they're not telling anybody. So yeah, but they still are listening, 100%.
Yep. So what's interesting about this is the content diversification allows Meta to take your product and find a user at any stage of the journey. That, if you think about it, if I have
insanely powerful.
Right. If just simplify this, my UGC gave me 1/9 of my audience.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, right. Exactly.
My 1/9 of my audience got me to $250,000 spend a month. What happens when I add 8 more?
You didn't even change your time. Is this open targeting? I forget now.
I have no targeting, no exclusions. Yes. I have nothing. I literally just said, thank you for your default settings. I'm going to focus on creative.
It's awesome. So cool. This is like one of the best ongoing case studies. Like, I'm excited. I get that, like the hair on the back of my neck and on my back.
Right.
That's how excited.
This mole is all tingling right now.
Anything else before we get to questions? Because
the one thing I wanted to make mention just in the industry, and I think that this is everyone, and I don't even want everyone to knee-jerk reaction. I want everyone to reflect on this question. We know Google goes warm. Google has become a harder network to prospect. Demand gen, we've proven, does go warm. Performance Max, we've proven, goes warm. If you don't believe us, please just sign off this YouTube live. Like we're not for you. We've proven this for months. Right. But what that means is that it's our job as advertisers to build an omni-channel full funnel. If you do focus on Meta, because Meta is a better, cheaper, faster prospecting engine than Google when comparing spend levels of CPMs, it just is, period. If we start here and we can replicate our success in demand gen, now we have 1 + 1 = 3, not which one's better. So yes, I'm taking approach of Meta first, but there is also a Google element that is going to follow. And we have a case study where we did 3 different products in a Meta campaign. I launched a demand gen with those same 3 products. And what was working so well in Meta literally had 10 times the performance in demand gen because of that. So there is going to be a trickle-down effect, as in like the Google guys focusing on Meta. This is how to structure your omni-channel flow and why everything ties together. And efficiency is key, not versus is key. So I want to mention that, yes, we're focusing on Meta at the moment right now because this is our largest scale platform we have at our disposal across all platforms. And that is what is the tip of the spear that everything, and an email back there going, woo, following, This is Meta is going to go, we have Meta to Google to direct to organic to email to return traffic to return customers. All of these follow the larger prospecting engine, which is Meta. And if you screw this up, your rest of your funnel will be inefficient.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like, we're really scratching the surface on this.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just so much fun because it's like there's so much more scale and runway now with this Andromeda update. And it's easier for a media buyer to manage. It just is if it's done the right way. If you have the patience, we've run into that before because time, some products take 28 days, some take 7 days, some take 90 days.
Yeah.
So there is that, and the algorithm and the campaigns have to understand like who you're going to target, like when you first start. So there's a ramp up period, especially if you're switching all this over to Advantage Plus Sales automated. There is that, but this is the future of it all.
Yeah. And I do have to say that in the industry, we're in a situation where everyone's ego has been reset. No one is a good meta advertiser anymore. Everything that you were good at is gone. And you have to check your ego at the door and say, I need to become a student of the engine again. Because that's the only thing I've dedicated my life to is learning. And that's why I typically find things first. So it's almost like, hey, what you knew, give it a nice hug, kiss, goodbye, mourn the death, and we need to move on. But that's where we are as media buyers. It's not that the death of the media buyer, it's that the death of the media buyer that cannot adapt.
It couldn't be, that is the absolute truth. And here's the thing about this too, before we get to questions, is like, you're kind of known as the guy who like hacks the algorithm. Like, you're not doing that here. You're not coming up with some crazy tinfoil hat scheme. You're actually doing what Meta wants you to do. And like all the old way of doing things, like watch a video of me explaining the e-com ad amplifier from like 5 years ago. That is so outdated.
Yeah.
And it made us millions and millions of dollars. Granted. However, throw it out. Doesn't work anymore.
Don't fall in love with the way you make the money. Exactly.
Absolutely. And ego is the biggest obstacle at this point.
I mean, it's like we're talking to a guy that is right now. I was the one that basically says, hey, here's the 9 content diversification strategies. 2 weeks ago, I had nothing but UGC. We are building that. Like, we're building other content, but I was the ignorant person 2 weeks ago because I didn't know. I had to figure this out for myself. And so I wasn't just like forcing an old model. I had to learn to adapt. And I think we have to look at this as in we're not hacking the algorithm, and we are actually leveraging the algorithm. We're finding ways to pull the biggest lever for the biggest result. That's our job now.
All right, super appreciate you listening here on today's show. We'll continue to rebroadcast those sessions that I do privately with John, as well as you can also listen to those or watch those live on the Ad Lab every Friday. It's sort of a supplemental piece of content that we put out every single week that's live. You can ask questions. And that's over on all the Tier 11 socials and LinkedIn, YouTube at Tier 11. And you can get that at tier11.com/YouTube and sign up for that. Make sure you don't miss a single episode of that. That's supplemental to what we do here in Perpetual Traffic. But alongside everything we do here, it really does give you a very deep dive into what's going on in the inner workings of how we're doing things and how we're innovating with AI, specifically with Meta right now, because it is so exciting. So anyway, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure that you do leave us a rating and review. It allows us to get out to a larger audience here, do things the right way, teach you these new strategies. Do not live in the past, ladies and gentlemen. Live in today and with an eye towards the future. Keep it tuned right here in Perpetual Traffic every single week, and we'll try and do that for you. So on behalf of my amazing co-host, Lauren Heath Petrullo, who could not make it here today, until next show, see ya.